You don't call me. What should be the expectation as it relates to communicating with each other regarding the telephone? I think each person has their own set of rules swirling around in their heads pertaining to this. Some people actually vocalize their expectations to others, while others simply passively expect other people to automatically have the same degree of response. The question, though, becomes should we have expectations at all regarding the amount and frequency of telephone communication from other people? Let's be honest, no one likes to be ignored or feel like nobody cares. Yet, since the dawn of time, we struggle to be able to effectively communicate with one another to show other people that they do, in fact, matter. I must say, however, that the older I've gotten, the more this issue of someone not calling seems to be at the forefront of both my life and the people around me. Besides the self centeredness of people, I gather that this issue has escalated largely due to the way culture has developed over the last decade or so. I don't recall ever having this problem in my adolescence or hearing others gripe about it. Not saying that the problem didn't exist and that people weren't calling other people or losing touch, but that the issue about it wasn't a prevalent phenomenon. Now, I remember the days of the pen pals and letter writing before the advent of electronic mail or email came to be. It was a different level of expectation regarding our communication with people. We were less antsy about getting an instant reply back from someone. In fact, I believe we gave people more grace regarding the speed of communication because we realized that it might take a while for them to receive our communication and then respond back if and when they were able. Can you imagine the grace for people that had to have happened even earlier than this in history? When people went off to venture to a foreign land and they sent a letter via messenger, and it took days, weeks, months, and sometimes years to get the message to and from. Fast forward to today's time where communication, and I'll put that in quotes because sometimes it's a poor attempt at it, is instant. So now the instantaneousness of it all has created an accelerated expectation of interaction with people. But should this be? Should we keep this level of expectation with people simply because the access is available? Is the access driving the expectation or vice versa? Regardless of your stance or answer to this, I think we can all agree on the fact that the feeling as though you're not receiving thoughts of care from people in the form of a telephone call, text, or personal meetup sucks. It's crappy. It makes you feel rejected, unloved, and useless. It drives you further and further into isolation and quite possibly depression. Now, some of you out there are probably saying to yourself, well, I'm not a phone talker. I prefer to text. I would ask you, why is this the case? Oftentimes, I find that people know how to use the phone when they want to talk with certain people and then use this as an excuse for other people they don't want to talk to, instead of just telling that person why they don't want to talk to them over the phone. Sometimes, though, it is difficult to effectively communicate with that person your reason behind not wanting to talk with them over the phone because the truth will not be received well. So you avoid confronting them and respond back with text messages. I don't encourage this behavior, and I've tried to find other ways to handle difficult situations like this, such as keeping the conversation short or redirecting when the conversation seems to be going down a path I don't want to go. I think it is worth examining your own personal expectations of people as it relates to the desires you have and the demands you place on people for the frequency of phone calling that you anticipate and expect. First, we need to ask ourselves, are we expecting too much? Or are we expecting too little? Is there even such a thing as expecting too little as it relates to this issue? I think for each person, it is up to them to have that conversation with themselves first before they lash out on the people they love because they are not meeting their level of expectation. Finally, I'll say this. Sometimes we try so hard to get people who do not desire to live the way we want to do the things we want them to do. Meaning, we desire a certain friend or family member to call us frequently and be in our lives at a greater capacity than they can or want to be. So we have to fall back for a second and see their communication efforts for what they are. Yes, I think you can communicate with that person the love you have for them and desires for a certain type of interaction. But at the end of the day, if that person does not reciprocate in the manner that you have expressed, which makes you feel loved, then at some point you have to move on and not press the matter. Not saying you have to let that person go, but that you have to let go of your ideal expectations and perfect world mentality when it comes to your interaction with that person, and maybe even lessen your reins on the horse driving that relationship. It is clear that you cannot change people. You can only change yourself and your level of interaction with people. I'd say if you're doing this to reconsider whether those passive aggressive jokes about why someone doesn't call you is really a joke, and if it's truly effective every time you say it to that person. Obviously, they're either not getting it or getting it and refusing to change. So, continually dropping hints, whether passively or directly, will not change people's behavior. Oftentimes, it works counterintuitively and drives people further away because they are tired of hearing about why they don't call that other person enough. So, maybe saying it once or twice and possibly a third time is enough. Then, after that, get the picture and move on if that person is still not calling you at the frequency that you desire. Find someone who will and go with that. Having said all this, I still believe that as a society, we need to do better. We need to do better about our communication with people and not just in a lazy text messaging form. We need to cultivate our verbal interactions with people and reach out to people more. We can all do a better job of showing people love in ways that might not always be convenient or preferred, but that it effectively reaches the other at the place where they most need it. For more content and to download copies of my ebooks, go to simplelifeconversations.blog. That's simplelifeconversations.blog. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast channel to get the latest episode of Conversation Starters.